20th Century Boys is written by one of the greatest manga creators of all time, Naoki Urasawa. This title, along with Pluto and Monster, earned him this recognition. And I have read Monster, so my expectations from 20th Century Boys were very high, and it completely fulfilled them. I still don't understand why people criticize the ending of Monster and 20th Century Boys. In my opinion, Monster justifies its ending perfectly, and though the ending of 20th Century Boys may seem rushed, it makes sense in the context of the story. After all, with such a giant build-up, the story could only have ended that way. But this isn't the topic of this video, so we'll discuss it some other time. Like many anime and manga series that have several volumes, 20th Century Boys also has 22 volumes. Today, I'll be sharing the story from the first 3 volumes. This will give you an idea of why 20th Century Boys is more popular than Monster among some people. The story begins with Kenji as an adult. He's a man who, during his childhood, dreamt of what he wanted to become when he grew up, just like every other person. He and his group of friends made a flag, pledging that they would be the ones to save the world from atomic bombs, killer viruses, giant robots, and even aliens. But as Kenji grew up, responsibilities fell on him, taking care of his elderly mother and his sister's daughter, Kanna. One day, his sister Kariko suddenly left Kanna in Kenji and his mother's care and disappeared. Kenji and his mother had no idea who Kanna's father was or where Kariko had gone. Because of this, Kenji's mother decided to leave Kanna at a child care center, but Kenji wouldn't allow it. He even gave up his band for his sister's daughter. Kenji had a dream, inspired by hearing Jumping Jack on the radio for the first time, that one day he would perform on Japan's biggest stage. We hear Kenji say this again in high school when he joins a band. At that time, a guy named Spider asks him about his dream, and Kenji says again that one day he will perform on Japan's biggest stage. But when Spider asks if he is serious about it, Kenji says, not at all. 3 years later, Spider is performing on Japan's biggest stage in Osaka, while Kenji is still where he was, running a store with his mother and niece. So, that was a brief backstory of Kenji, the main character of 20th Century Boys. After this, 2 police officers come to Kenji's store, asking him about Professor Shikishima, to whom Kenji had delivered something 2 weeks ago. That's when Kenji learns that Shikishima and his entire family are missing. Hearing this, Kenji feels sad because he hadn't yet collected payment from them. But when he goes to their house to collect the money, he sees a symbol that looks familiar to him. Soon after, Kenji learns about the death of his childhood friend Donkey, who apparently committed suicide by jumping off a school building. Donkey was the friend who once saved Kenji and their other friends from drowning. At Donkey's house, Kenji finds a letter in which Donkey asks him if he remembers the symbol. Donkey's wife also tells Kenji about a boy named Masao, who recently joined a cult called Friend. Masao was a student of both Professor Shikishima and Donkey. When Kenji tracks down Masao, he discovers that not only Masao, but many others have joined the Friend cult, and the cult leader is known as Friend. The biggest revelation is that Kenji had seen the same symbol from the cult in the letter from Donkey and at Shikishima's house. Following Friend's orders, Masao kills the founder of a religious group with a knife. Despite thinking hard, Kenji cannot recall the symbol from his childhood until he finds a box with the same symbol that he and his childhood friends had hidden. The box was drawn by Eiko, who is now a monk in Tibet, so he couldn't possibly be Friend. Kenji becomes obsessed with the symbol, wondering who could be using it from their childhood. He is certain that Donkey couldn't have committed suicide. As Kenji spends more time investigating this, his store's sales plummet. The person with whom Kenji had a store contract gives him 2 options. Either send Kanna to the child care center, in which case the contract will remain intact, or keep Kanna and lose the contract. Kenji chooses to keep his sister's daughter Kanna because it was Kariko who had once saved his life. Kenji's mother had considered an abortion because their family was too poor to take care of another child, but Kariko insisted that she would take care of the baby and become its mother. When Kenji had his first road accident, Kariko skipped her college entrance exam to stay with him in the hospital, even though getting into college had been her dream. Not only that, it was Kariko who got Kenji his first guitar after his mother refused. She managed to get the guitar with the help of a rich boy from her class, even though she didn't like him at all. You can imagine how much Kariko cared for Kenji, so how could he abandon his sister's daughter? Naoki Urasawa's writing brilliantly highlights the importance of family relationships, especially between siblings. Later in the story, we see a new side of this brother-sister bond. After this, virus attacks occur in San Francisco and London, where the victims' bodies are drained of blood. Kenji meets a man who is injured with a knife and is a member of the Friend cult. The man confesses that he released the virus in San Francisco and asks Kenji about the next location, but Kenji says he doesn't know. The man replies that Kenji knows Friend very well and is aware of all his future plans because those plans were Kenji's ideas. Kenji's memory flashes back to when he and his friends had imagined what bad people might do and how they would protect others from them. Kenji had suggested a virus attack and even mentioned San Francisco and London, the names of 2 cafes he had recently visited with his sister. In the present, the injured man gives Kenji a laser gun, another one of Kenji's childhood ideas. However, the man warns Kenji not to fire it as it's not fully functional yet. The man then reveals that Donkey didn't commit suicide. He was pushed off the building. As Donkey fell, he said that these were not Friend's ideas but Kenji's. The man hands Kenji Donkey's last letter. To be honest, this is the point where the story really started to excite me. The way everything was connecting was very interesting. It's clear that Friend must be one of Kenji's childhood friends who knew all of his ideas, but Kenji can't figure out who it is because all his childhood friends are standing in front of him, and they're all obsessed with Friend and his cult. When Kenji reads Donkey's last letter, he starts crying. In the letter, Donkey reminds Kenji of the oath they took under the flag, swearing to save the world. He asks Kenji to fulfill that promise now. Donkey even suggests that Friend might be one of their old friends. After reading this, Kenji locks himself in a room and plays the guitar until the strings break, in memory of Donkey's pain. Then a new day dawns. Kenji wants to find out who Friend is, but when he sees his friends struggling with their own problems, he doesn't want to involve them in a new one, so he keeps quiet. Kenji goes to a concert organized by Friend after seeing something in Kanna that reminds him of his sister. At the concert, Kenji climbs onto the stage and shouts to the crowd that Friend was responsible for the virus attacks in London and San Francisco. But the audience doesn't care and tries to pull him off the stage. Kenji then pulls out the laser gun. At that moment, Friend makes his grand entrance and reveals to Kenji and the entire world that he is Kanna's father and Kenji's older brother. This revelation literally shocked me. How does Naoki Urasawa write villains so well? No one would have imagined at the beginning that Kanna's father would turn out to be Friend. I think this is enough to spark your interest in this manga. In the next part, I'll tell you more of the story, which gets even more interesting from here. So like the video and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming interesting videos.